Welcome to the Cosmic Pie Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barkhouse. We're at episode 28 and season 3.
Right. And I'm Robert Moore, by the way, for those who don't know, and we'll introduce our guest in just a minute.
So we are broadcasting live from the campus here at the University of North Dakota from Grand Forks, North Dakota.
North
right?
Dakota.
Does University of North Dakota have to be in North Dakota? Is there some rule? Hand it down on tablets, do you think?
Actually, it was all politics, but you can read about all about that in
know-
history. The reason there's two Dakotas is not the same as the reason there's two Carolinas.
Why is there two Carolinas? Tell me that one.
Well, because they were chartered by the English crown differently.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
There was going to be only one Dakota, There wasn't going to
Yep.
be a separate.
That's what I
North
was
and
getting
South.
at. Yeah.
It's interesting history there.
The politics of keeping equal representation between the parties in Congress.
And they were admitted at state within a few hours of each other, I believe, too,
Yeah.
which is also interesting.
Oh, yeah. A lot of interesting stuff with these Western states.
Really cool. So if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask us throughout the podcast when we talk about our very special guests that we have on today, please use the chat feature. And as a disclaimer, Robert, do you want me or do you want
I'm
to
going to
do it?
let you do it this time.
Anything, any opinions or anything we say between all of us, all three of us here, are not necessarily the opinions of the University of North Dakota, nor the College of Arts and Science, nor the Department of Physics and Astrophysics, nor the person that's walking on the street right now. And
Right.
I know there's got to be somebody in this city walking on the street
Well,
right now.
students are back on campus, so absolutely there's somebody walking around on campus out on the street right now.
We're the only ones responsible, so you can, when you make your comments, you can address it to us. How's
That's
that?
it. Please keep them nice and polite, though.
Keep them nice. And the other thing is we do upload our podcast to Spotify the next day. So if you're a Spotifyer, is that a noun? Or
I have no idea.
We'll make it one. How's that?
With these crazy kids today, there's no telling.
So if you prefer that source of getting your podcast, then we will be there shortly. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest today. And Kristina, we're going to let you do the main introduction. You can say your full name if you like. Why are you here? and where are you, first of all? Because nobody will have a clue, right? So maybe I'll let you take it away for a bit here.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm very honored to be a guest on the podcast. My name is Kristina Gatto. I come all the way from New Jersey, but currently I'm sitting in Dr. Barkhouse's office for good Wi-Fi service. So, yeah.
You pay for that too, you realize, because you are a student here. Maybe you should say that.
This is true. Yeah. Reap the benefits of what I'm paying for.
Yes.
And I was going to mention she's one of our new students, so
Yes.
we're here to get the viewpoint of a new student.
Interrogate.
But continue, Kristina.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm starting my Ph.D. in physics here at the University of North Dakota, and I'm hoping to do my thesis work in cosmology, so in the astrophysics part of the physics department. And I'm excited to hopefully one day either work with Wayne or oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name, the other astro professor.
Tim.
So embarrassing. Yes, Tim. I'm like, yeah.
If he's watching, don't hold it.
She is new.
is
She
new.
just got here.
Jitters.
It's like that. There's this. I don't know what. There's some kind. There must be a name to this effect. Do you ever go somewhere where you really? There's some people you don't know, and somebody will say, "Oh, this is so and so." They'll introduce you. Let's say it's Bob, right?
Right.
And then the other person, I'll use in physics what we always use. Right? The other person is Alice, right? So you meet Bob and Alice. And it's like 3 seconds later after you walk away, you don't remember at all what their names are. You ever notice that?
I suffer from that terribly. The amount of people that I've shaken hands with today and gotten introduced with in one ear out the other. It's not personal. It's just
Right.
I don't know what happens.
I tell students all the time, I'll remember your face forever. I'll remember your name forever. Putting
Not
the two
better.
together
Different
may or may
story.
not happen.
So
how
what is that, I wonder? Psychology or something, right? There's got to be a phrase for that.
Right.
Mhm.
I
Some
don't
kind of
know.
effect,
I was a psych major for 1 year, and I never covered that.
It's
so.
like when someone tells us the name, it doesn't get in, we don't even try to put it in our memory bank somehow.
Right.
It's like we flush
Yeah.
that right away as if it's not important, right? When you think
Except
about
it
it.
is, but yeah.
And then you're left with, if you wanted to say something to this person a little bit later, what do you say? Hey, you with the hair on your head. Like, what do you say, right? Hey, you, right? That's what we say.
Hey, you with the gerbil in your
Yeah,
pocket.
or
Wait.
Like I
Yeah.
can see the face in my head, but like the name is just like a blurred block of text.
Right.
Now, I have to ask you, Kristina, to get on the serious side a little bit, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
before I
a little
laugh
bit.
too much and have to run to the washroom or something. Right? Whatever got you, obviously, you're interested in astronomy, you're interested in science, you're interested in physics. And I guess we can explore a little bit later on in this podcast. You're also interested in science communication, if that's a fair statement.
I am. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so before we go there, maybe tell us a little bit about, how you got interested in, in science and maybe astronomy specifically.
Ooh, where do I begin? This is like a lifelong story. To start briefly, as like a kid with my grandfather, I used to watch like the Science Channel, so all the like Into the Wormhole shows and Cosmos, like that was always on the TV. And my grandfather came over like frequently, so we always would watch that. So that kind of started like my initial spark of like interest and curiosity in astronomy. And then from there, like my mom and my family would get me like the space, like what are they, like the Discovery Kids books, and I would read them like cover to cover, and I like was so obsessed with them. And I got like my first telescope. I had to have been like, I don't know, 9 or 10, and like I also was obsessed with it. And then it wasn't until I think I had to have been in like middle school for the first time. My mom brought me to our local community college. They had an observatory on campus. Then they, in the summer, did like weekly, like open observatory nights. So we went to one of those, and I thought it was the coolest thing as a kid to go in like the big like dome with the red lights. And as it like, like a 10-year-old, like it seemed like such a massive telescope. Like that was so cool to me. And like that kind of just stuck with me. And then when I got to high school and like college apps kind of started coming into the question, I think in like sophomore and junior year, my mom just so happened to take my brother and I again to the same observatory because they were still doing the open observatory nights. And I remember leaving, like this is such like a pivotal moment for me. I remember leaving from the observatory that one night in the summer, and I was like, Mom, this is what I want to do with my life. Like this is what I want to study. It was like an aha moment. Like this is it. Like I figured it out. So that's kind of the progression of how I got to figuring out that like I really liked astronomy. And then obviously I ended up going to undergrad for astrophysics, and the department I was with, I was at Siena College, was so wonderful and just very nurturing and welcoming. And they kind of really let me take a lot of initiative, and a lot of my ideas that I had, they let me kind of put into action. So they're very supportive in that regard. So I was able to do kind of, in my opinion, like as much as I possibly could have in undergrad, which I'm very, very grateful for.
Now, just to step in a little bit, so it's interesting to note how you had that aha moment and what it was related to. And what I'm thinking is a lot of the colleges and universities, they don't have to be that large in size in terms of, total enrollment at a given year or
Yeah.
something, is having a facility like an observatory not located 100 miles away or somewhere where you want to put it in a really dark site, which you do for research. But the
Yeah.
one aspect you miss if you don't have it is an observatory on the campus grounds.
Right.
Okay, it's going to be in a light polluted area, as we say. You're not going to see as faint, with the same size telescope that's in a much darker site. But you
Yeah.
miss out on the public relation aspect of things. You miss out on making young girls and boys excited about astronomy and about coming to the university when they get to that point of higher education in their lives. And I'm not going to say anything about where we are currently, but that's all, to me, astronomy is a gateway science.
Absolutely.
It brings people into a physics department that, not necessarily knowing what they want, but they got excited because they learned about astronomy and they get in the physics department, and maybe they end up going into other fields that's not directly related to astronomy. But it is an opening to higher education in the STEM fields.
And we do have a question, so I'll step in here. Mizuho Schwalm asks, Hi, Kristina. When you were a child, did you watch the night sky without using telescopes?
Yes. Yeah, I do recall like learning like it must have been from one of those like discovery books, like seeing like the northern hemisphere like sky map and like seeing all the constellations. I never like memorized all of them, but like finding like the Big Dipper and like Orion was like, ooh, like I can point those out in the sky. Like figuring that out as a kid was also very like I feel very special, like a scientist, like early, you know what I mean? Like
I
it was
do. I do. Yeah. I'm laughing because it's familiar.
Now,
yeah.
when you where you grew up, was it an area where there was a lot of light pollution? Do you recall?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I grew up in northern New Jersey, which is right next to New York City. So we have like some of the worst light pollution probably on planet Earth.
right.
And even with the observatory that like my mom used to take us at like the community college, which again was only like 15 minutes away from my house. So it did very much experience light pollution. You could still see like Venus and Jupiter and Saturn and
Right.
the Big Dipper, like big bright objects in the sky you can see. And obviously, like as a kid or someone very new to astronomy, like those are exciting. Like seeing Saturn for the first time in a telescope, like that's crazy that you can just see that and it's out there in the sky. Like
Right.
it just a very magical moment.
I will be in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, over the next few days. And Thursday night, we actually bring telescopes out on
Ooh.
the pool deck of one of the major downtown hotels and show people what's in the night sky. So you can indeed do some visual as well as camera astronomy work, no matter
Yeah.
how light polluted the sky. You just, yeah, you're not seeing, Epsilon Eridani, you're not
Hmm.
going to see Vulcan.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you can also take advantage of, different things like Mars is the closest it's been in several years and have
Mhm.
public
Yeah.
viewing nights, right? Or, maybe you're looking at the moon and you're catching it when it's like first quarter or something, so you can really see the shadows of the craters and mountains on the moon a lot easier. Or even
Mhm.
like for example, when I was a graduate student, I was in the middle of downtown Toronto at the University of
Right.
Toronto at the time, on top of the main building, very on the very top in the open air, with the television crew, and we were looking through telescopes and binoculars and everything else, looking at the lunar eclipse at night.
Hmm.
So even something that to us as a professional astronomer, or even if you're an amateur astronomer, have done it for many years, and in some sense maybe you lose the luster a little bit because you've seen,
Been there,
20,
done that,
20
seen it.
Yeah,
10 or
jaded
20
memory.
lunar eclipses and so on. Uh, some people haven't.
Hmm.
And those are the people you're trying to reach.
Right.
Mhm.
Or those who have never seen Saturn through a telescope and never experienced the first view of it, the rings,
Well,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
again, I'm going to be in Atlanta for Dragon Con, for those of you who are familiar with it. And we bring solar telescopes out, and I see some of the same people every year. It's a draw. People want to see this. They want to see what's going on. That it's not just a picture in a textbook or something like that.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter where you are then, Kristina, and in
Mhm.
terms of being in northern New Jersey, near you, New York City, whatever, there's
Mhm.
always something, should I dare say it, that we can focus on in the sky. In
Lord.
the sky. Sorry. So you want to tell us a little bit more about maybe how you got involved in science education? Because I know that's a big part, it seems to be, at least I'm guessing, of your
Yeah.
life as it is up to this point. So maybe you could tell us a lot about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my personal experience having that like aha moment at the observatory, kind of that kind of snowballed very largely in my undergrad experience. Um, I think because I realized how pivotal that moment was for me and just kind of how simple the event was. It like, it was just an Astro 101 professor hosting an open observing night to anyone in the public in my county. Like that was an easy event and it really changed my life. And I realized that my like college campus had an observatory and it was brand new as of like 2018. I started my freshman year in 2020, so it was very new, all the instruments and the equipment and stuff. And as of then, it was only open to the physics and astronomy majors, which in itself was awesome. And I was very excited about that. But then I had this like feeling in the back of my mind, like, oh, I have so many non-astronomy friends. It was only like the program was pretty small, so it was only me and like a handful of other people that could use it. I was like, oh, but what about all the other like friends I have that aren't astro majors, like they don't get to experience this awesome like telescope and like the beauty of Saturn and the moon and all these cool like objects. Like I want to share this with people. So I got to chatting with my department and they were all on board with like the idea of wanting to share it. So we decided to come up with the astronomy club. Originally, I think there was a physics and astronomy club, but it was mostly just like a physics club. So I proposed the idea of having an astronomy club so we can share the campus observatory with not only like the campus community, but also like the general community outside the campus. And it took a couple months to like get through like the student government and everything, but we finally got approved. And I was very, very nervous because I got a lot of like, good word and opinions, just talking to like people in the department about how it would go and my peers, but I had no idea what to expect from like our first like meeting. And our first meeting was like an open observatory night and like had to have been like the end of April. So very end of like my sophomore year. And it was like a raging success. Like I was like in tears. I was so thrilled at the turnout. I think our observatory was on the roof. So I think the capacity was like 80 people and we had to turn away people because there were so many people that showed up and we like obviously we couldn't go over the capacity. So we had like people waiting, like lined up to come to the observatory. And I was like, wow, like we started something like we're sharing this with people and they really, really seem to like it. So that was kind of the first like, wow, like I really like being able to share this with other people. And there's something also really special about seeing someone else's and facilitating someone else's like spark of interest for astronomy. I think, I don't know, like seeing even like older people or like young kids being like, wow, like I can see the moon in the telescope, like I can see it, like something like that is so special to me.
Yeah.
So after that, like I continued doing the astronomy club and running like the meetings and the open observatory nights, both like on campus and with the public, like the rest of my college career. And I had so much fun with it because I did it with all my friends. So we would all like hang out in the observatory, would, send send out the mass email to the whole campus and everyone would show up and it was, a great time. We had music and everything. But then I graduated. And
That always gets in the way, right?
right. I graduated. It was so much fun. And I sat at home for like a month, like twiddling my thumbs, and I was like, well, I can't not do like I can't like sit home and do nothing, right? Like I had so much fun. Like I found this like newfound passion for outreach, and I would like it just has to stop because I graduated. So I took that and I kind of sat with it for a bit and I brainstormed and I was like, what can I do to reach people in a similar way that I was able to reach people in college?
Okay, so before you get to that, we'll put a little bit of a cliffhanger for people.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear of the Sidewalk Astronomers type of organization?
I want to say yes. I don't know much about them though.
This was something I think was started up by John Dobson, the Dobsonian telescope maker.
Mhm.
And the idea was instead of bringing people to an observatory, which is
Bring the
fine,
observatory
you
to
bring you
them.
bring the observatory to
Yeah,
them. So you
I
make
have actually.
so you make the portable telescopes and you go right out to like the middle of a downtown city and set them up on literally the sidewalk. And
Right.
at night, and have people who happen to be strolling by anyways take a peek at the moon or at the planets or whatever happens to be viewable at the time. And that really is a good way of reaching people as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wondered if you had participated in any of that during that time
I
period.
I don't not really because we had a campus like observatory. We had a
Right.
0.9 meter telescope, so like we just invited people to the science building because we had a pretty state-of-the-art telescope for the size of our college. So
Yeah.
Yeah, 0.9, that's a good
That's
size.
a good size.
yeah, oh my God, it was
That's a big
fantastic.
mirror.
Yeah, I like to have that here on our campus.
Absolutely.
Here on campus. We have other telescopes just to let
Yeah.
people know. But it'd be nice to
Yeah.
have something right on campus
Right.
so that when we have our students doing our astronomy labs, they don't have to venture far off campus. They could actually just go and use the
Well,
telescope.
I
And also public observing events, here on campus as well would be
I
great.
can't remember where I saw this set up, but I was on one campus that they had, and it wasn't in a dark sky environment, but they had their main like 14, 16-inch telescope in a dome. But then all around were like 8 piers that they had all around the perimeter of the building where they'd set up little 8-inch telescopes so they could point at like,
Yeah,
12
Yeah.
different objects.
And if you
that's
even,
exactly what my college did.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, cool. Because even if you wanted to like reduce the expense, we're giving some
Yeah,
administrators
I
some
know.
ideal, I think, that you don't even have to put something on top of the roof of an existing building or maybe a building that's soon going to be in existence.
Right?
I've
You
seen
don't
them.
have to.
I've seen them built in just small shed-like buildings
Mm-hmm.
on the ground themselves, and it's in
Yeah.
an area where it's not blocked by overhanging buildings, of course, but that provides a good opportunity, to look at the sky from campus proper, that
Right.
sort of thing. So, but yes,
Yeah.
so you graduated.
I graduated. Well, I want to make a point. Actually, before
Right.
I graduated, I was having like a freak out because I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. Obviously, grad school is the question. And I sat down with one of my like mentors, advisors, professors, Dr. John Mustakas, who's very wonderful. And I'm very grateful for him. And we had a very long conversation about kind of what to do post grad and opportunities and options and just a very long life chat. And basically what I took from the conversation is he told me to, if I'm interested in like SciComm and outreach, to kind of find a niche and then fill that niche, to put it simply. And it really took me a good couple of months to kind of figure out what that niche is because I was like, oh, so many people have like, astronomy 101 like crash course videos and like there's actually a really good amount of like intro astronomy and intro physics outreach and just like materials out there. So I was like, I can't really do that because it's already been done and like I don't know if what I'm going to do is going to be better than what's out there. So I was like, I feel like I have to do something a little different than that. And I reflected a bit on my own journey and I had a bit of a difficult time getting into astrophysics in college, not from my college, but in high school I struggled a lot with like discouragement from my the people surrounding me, which was unfortunate, and I almost did not go into astronomy. And I thought if I was in my shoes again at 17, 18, making this big decision of college, what would benefit me most? And I figured that it would be kind of more of a guide on how to actually get into astronomy because as cool as astronomy is and astrophysics is, it also feels very out of reach for a lot of people. I feel like, and especially me because I lived this experience, it seemed like something that was only for, 4.0, top of the class, like the best of the best people can go into astrophysics and no one else can. Like you have to be like an Einstein to get into it. And I really wanted to change the narrative that that is not the case. And, learning is more of a journey than something you're expected to just know everything right off the bat. Um, so I did end up taking a gap year to mostly apply to grad school, but also to do a lot of outreach endeavors online. And one of the biggest things I tried to do was promote a lot of information on actually how to navigate the astronomy field because I feel like that's not something as widely shared, or at least it seems like a lot of information is you have to be on the inside of the field to know, and it's I don't know, not necessarily gate kept, but it's kind of like you have to be on the in to know, if that makes sense.
Or
Uh,
be somebody that can reach out. I mean, like Wayne and I
yeah,
and yourself, we'll talk to anybody. We'll
yeah,
pump you up about this because we think it's great.
yeah,
But the average person is going to say, "Oh, they won't want to talk to me." Yeah,
yeah.
we do. We will.
Exactly. And you kind of have to know like who or what like you're looking for too. Like it's very, very kind of scary to navigate when you're just starting, even in terms of like applying to internships or RUs or funding or even grad school. Like it's scary and like there's not a lot of direction on it. It's kind of just a trial by fire. And at least for me, it was very trial by fire. So I wanted to make other people who came after me, their journeys a bit easier than I had it. So my goal for using social media as a leverage, so like Instagram and TikTok and Discord, like I created a community and spaces to share information on just how to navigate the field and how to apply to RUs, which I've done before. So I feel like I can talk about that. and how to apply to like internships, and I don't know, just how to go to like conferences and stuff like that. So I want to share information that's not necessarily like astronomy topics per se, but how to actually navigate and get into the field, because again, it seems like a very intimidating field, and then I don't know, you get into the field and you see the same like 400 people at the same conferences, and yeah, I don't know, you get to, you know what I mean? Like you get to know the field. It's like, this isn't scary. It's just, you know.
Um,
Well, the thing is, like you're in high school and you go to the guidance counselor, not to pick on guidance counselors, but they don't know everything about every field
Right.
that's out there. And you ask them about astronomy, you're not going to get much probably, unless you happen to have one that's interested in that field to begin with.
Yeah.
And they can't really steer you very well. And at least when I was going through, I knew what I was going to do anyway, so I didn't have an issue with that. But I know a lot of times, even if they set up like a visit with a professor at a local university or college, would have been like a lot more than you typically would get, right?
Yeah.
So if anyone was lucky enough to have that, that would be fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this discussion reminds me of a funny story at one of the colloquium classes that I took at Georgia State when I was getting my astronomy degree. And we were reading the topic for the colloquium that semester was a paper you like and a paper you hate. And one of the papers that was hated, it was poor science. It was just downright. Why would they try to publish this? And one of the students brought up, well, maybe they wanted to, get it out there and get feedback on it. And one of the professors shook his head and said, in this field, there's maybe 1,000 people in it. Send it out on an email and it'll be to everybody by tonight. So,
Peer reviews for.
right. So there's just not that many astronomers. There really aren't. So talk to one of us. We're probably going to be happy to talk to you.
Yeah. And I've been to a couple AASs before, and the general idea I get is you either know somebody or you know somebody that knows somebody, and that's the whole field.
Yeah,
Right.
that's networking, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
usually done through your advisor at university. And for those who don't know, that's the American Astronomical Society. It's the professional organization of astronomers that we have here in the United States. So I'm a member of it, and mostly everybody, I think, who are astronomers is a member of it. Robert, I don't think Robert's / geologist / astro /
Yeah,
he has a lot of hats he wears.
Yeah, my interest is planet formation, so I did astronomy, but I also did a lot of geology. So,
But part of the training, if you like, as a student, especially when you get in graduate school, is to try to help your student how to write papers, because not all of them know how to do that. What does it mean to submit a manuscript for publication? How do which journal do I select? These sort of things, right? Also, what about a meeting? Is it worth going to the meeting? Like, do I go there just to have fun, or do I actually learn something and it's worth the expense? Because this stuff is not free, and normally,
and that's why I'm not a AA.
Right, and how do I get time on a large telescope? Writing an observing proposal. How can I make it good enough so that I can get time, or at least a reasonable chance of getting time? And what does it mean to get time? What are all the steps I have to do to go there? What are the things I need to prepare for? What do I do when I actually get there? Because every second costs a certain amount of money when you're at a telescope, and it's yours to use for a night or 2 or 3 or 4. How do I make the most efficient use of this instrument that's been entrusted in me to do the work that I promise? So there is a whole slew. People think it's fun and games. You're going off to graduate school. Aren't you lucky? You just sit around and think all day. There's a lot more to that. There is a lot of thinking, but it's a lot of really in-depth type of stuff you have to do. It's not nothing you just think of an old song that you heard 10 years ago, and that's all you're thinking about.
I tell students all the time, it's like, I recommend grad school, but it better be something you want. Because if you don't want it, you will not put in the work you need to.
It's a lot of work, right?
It is.
It's almost as if, I remember, Kristina, when I was in school, people would say, you can't see my hands, but it's like, okay, you go from, let's say, middle school, and then you hit, and people will understand this if they've gone through this path, then you hit algebra, if you just pick on mathematicians. And there's like this steep learning curve, right? That you lose some people in algebra because they don't get the concept, right? That's using variables in place of actual numbers, right? They don't understand how you can manipulate variables or labels, if you like, the same way as you can numbers, essentially. So just some people have a difficulty with that connection. And then the next jump on that would be like calculus.
Right.
And you'll lose a bunch of people. And then when you go from undergraduate, you go to graduate school, and it's a big steep learning curve, and you can lose a lot of. So there's all these things in life before
Right.
you. By the time you get to the promised land, it's almost. I always joke and say that's now it's ready to retire, right? Because if you think of all the time it would take to get. Okay, I don't want to discourage anybody, and I'm sorry, and I apologize if I do. You get through elementary school, that requires a certain period of time. Then it's middle school. Then it's high school. Then it's your undergrad. Then it's graduate, and that could consist of getting a master's degree and or a Ph.D. to go with that. Then you usually go to postdoctoral positions after that, which is typically 2 of them, 3 years each, but that varies. And then you get in a faculty position, but you're not done. Then your assistant tenure track position, you have to get tenure at some point. Then you become an associate professor. Then you have to get full professor at some point. And when it's all said and done, then you retire.
You retire.
And how many years? Add all those years up. See?
Do you know that is one of the reasons I decided I didn't want the PhD was I was doing it later in life and got to 50 and realized that by the time I got tenure, I'd be in my 60s, if I got it then.
Yeah.
And was just like, I'll back away from this.
And that's why you get like some people, and then we'll talk about your social media sort of stuff in more detail here. And some people make comments like, you're just a professor from North Dakota. I won't mention where that came from recently.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but do you know to be just a professor from North Dakota, you want to know how many years I had to study? It's not like I don't know anything, or I read a manual that was 2 pages long, and that's all I had to do to become a full professor. There is a lot of work. And it reminds me, I forget the name, I think it's Star People or Star something. It's a documentary crew recently followed around some really best friends who are astronomers from England and so on. And I wish I remember the name, but I don't quite, Star something it is. And there's one scene where the professors are at the top of the gantry at the Palomar Observatory, the 200-inch telescope in Southern California. And there's tourists walking around the grounds, which most major observatories allow people to visit in the daytime. And the astronomers are off in the dorms sleeping because they're up all night doing their work. And then one of the tourists looked up at this and didn't know it was an astronomer, right? Looked up at this person on the gantry and yelled up, "How did you get up there?" And he yelled back, and I don't know the exact words, but it was paraphrased. It was something like, "It took long, bloody, hard years of study to get up here." Like, in other words, why am I up here on the gantry? Because I'm an astronomer, and that took a long time to get up there, It's just not something you could do overnight. Did you have any questions or comments, Robert, from the chat you want to mention?
There was a comment from Wanda. Even with 2 years of geometry, 2 years of trig, and a year of algebra all through high school, I felt I wouldn't hold up to college level math for the sciences. And a lot of people feel that way. I will disagree with that. There are definitely some math intensive paths, but there are some less math intensive paths. The real key for science education and getting into science is curiosity, wanting to know why things happen the way they do. In geology, it's like, why do you get columnar basalt from cooling lava? I mean, the Devil's Postpile, for instance, or the Devil's Tower.
But math anxiety is a big deal.
But math anxiety
it's
is
a big deal. And I remember like first year calculus, it's almost as if the professor looked at us and say, you see, it's almost like basic training, right? You see the person on the right of you and left of you, those two won't be here at the end of the semester.
Back in 1987, we called calculus a weed out class because
2/3 of you are going to flunk out of here.
60% failure rate.
Oh my God.
And some people take it 6, 7, 8 times to try to pass the things they needed for their degree, right? That they keep at it, trying to. But unfortunately, maybe it's the way it's taught or has been taught in the past. But math anxiety is real, right? I mean, a lot of people have it.
I'm a firm believer. A lot of it. I taught high school math for 3 years, and I can honestly say I had, in those 3 years, had plenty of students coming back telling me how and thanking me because they were able to sleep through college algebra and college trig, and in some cases even pre-calculus. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
was because I tried to show them the why of the math.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you try to put it in those terms and point out that this is just this variables, it's just the little line that you used to have in elementary school that you'd fill in the blank. That's all.
Yeah.
And when you start pointing out, fraction is just a division problem. 3/4 is 3 divided by 4. And you
Mhm.
start putting it in these ways, and you'll see those eyes light up, and they're like, why didn't anybody tell me this?
Yeah. I think math is very dependent on like a good teacher. I mean, like I'm not the best at math. I do really like math, but I always struggled with like abstract math. So taking classes like linear algebra where it was like pure abstract math with no like physical application, like I struggled really hard. And I remember that class I was really like frustrated with because on the last day of class, my professor had this fantastic presentation of like all the like real world applications for linear algebra. And I was like, why did you not tell us on
Why didn't
day
you
one?
start with that?
This would have
Right.
been so helpful. And like I didn't
Yes.
realize how much like it like when it like linear algebra can coexist with physics and a lot of like the same, there's so much overlap. And like I never made the connection because there
Right.
was no examples of like real world application.
Yeah.
So
And it turns out physics was extremely
Yeah,
valuable.
linear algebra is
Yeah.
really valuable in
Yeah.
physics.
yeah.
So you also,
Really valuable.
so you alluded to when you, I think, believe in high school that you had some one or more individuals that kind of, I don't know if I can use the right words, but correct me if I'm wrong, persuade you not to follow your passion in some sense. Is that really true?
Yeah, I do vividly recall leaving a meeting with one of my guidance counselors crying because I was told a student like me would not succeed in astronomy. And if like I wanted to try, I had to cast a very wide net. So I was left at like 17 feeling very discouraged and this
That's
maybe isn't for me because I'm too dumb or not smart enough.
you're
And I have a bit of a bone to pick because I was a like I wasn't a bad student. I was a very average student. I had A's and B's and I did like community service and like I don't know, sport. Like I was very average. I wasn't at the top, but I was, in the middle. But like I was like discouraged as if I was like failing. And I took it
wow.
very seriously because I was
Good.
like, wow, like these are, the adults above me are telling me that I'm too stupid to follow my dreams, so I really should listen to them.
And
Like,
you're the second of our
Yeah.
students that we've had on that says they encountered something like that. So
yeah.
if you're a guidance counselor and you're listening to the show, please don't do that to people.
Mhm.
I mean, I agree showing them some realistic, but learn a little bit about it. Call them back into your office and say, here's what instead of discouraging them, say, here's what you're facing.
Yeah. And
Let them decide if it's worth it or not.
yeah, and honestly, it kind of messed up like my college application process because to me it was like astrophysics or bust. I like did not want to go to college if I couldn't study astronomy because I was like, why would I go and spend money if I, couldn't study what I wanted to? So I ended up applying to just a bunch of random colleges because, they gave me fee waivers. So I was like, oh, I'll do the best I can, for free. And I'll kind of, I don't know. I really just didn't do the process right because I felt so discouraged and I just
Yeah.
didn't feel good about it. Thankfully, Siena was one of the colleges I applied to on a whim because they gave me a fee waiver while I was in pre-calc. I vividly remember it was like a Friday in pre-calc in like February and I didn't feel like paying attention, so I ended up sending a college application in for free and they accepted me the next week and then I ended up going there and the rest is history.
Well, I mean, Robert and I, of course, are old compared to you, but you hear about the stuff in the past, to like famous people, like Vera Rubin is the one that comes to mind right away, where she was told the same thing, and it's in her book if you want to read it, that she was, sort of dismissed at trying to pursue a career in science and especially astronomy. And so I have the notion, at least I had a bit, to be honest with you, and I don't know about Robert, but like a lot of this stuff had happened a lot more often in the past,
Yes.
and that in quote unquote modern times, which you are a part of, obviously, that it would be very rare. So I'm very disappointed to hear that this happened even to you, given how old you are
Right.
relative to Robert and I.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's as rare as people want to believe it is.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to
Definitely
get the
not.
impression that it's actually pretty common.
Yeah, and
And
now that I have like a bit of a social media presence, I can't even tell you, like on the daily, I get messages and DMs from and emails from people that are like sharing very, very similar experiences. And I'm like, why
that's
is this still happening?
Yeah.
Like
right.
what?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and point out it's female students.
Yes.
It really is. I see a few men, few males getting it too, and it's usually because their academic career has not been even moderate, much less stellar.
So they're told to drive a taxi instead of going
Right.
to university or something, right?
But
That's what they usually pick on.
I mean, I'm in lab. I'm hearing from engineering students, they're told not to, and that's a common denominator.
Yeah, no, I get literally like hundreds and like over the past year, I've gotten hundreds of comments of people that are like, either like I'm not smart enough, I've been told I'm not smart enough, I don't look like a scientist, like people are telling me not to do this or I'm not good enough. I'm like, what? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
In this day and age still?
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at. I mean, I don't know because I'm not out there like you are, obviously. So I don't know what's actually happening. Nobody says anything to me, so I don't know, right?
And
Time.
But
we've
yeah.
still got to get Nick back on here because we have had Nick.
Chara?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you bring up another good point. A lot of people sit there and say, "Oh, you don't look like a scientist."
Right.
Nick's got full sleeve tattoos and wears his hair buzzed on the side, so almost a mohawk and everything. And it's like, what does a scientist look like? They look like anybody.
Well, a lot of that's driven by probably movies in the past, what a scientist is supposed to look like,
Three-piece
stereotypical.
suit with a tie.
Yeah, or you can think of Albert Einstein if you want to let your hair go messy, right? That kind of, and you wear the same pants every day, not because they're exactly the same pants, but he bought the same pants, is my understanding, so you wouldn't have to waste thinking power on which pants to put on a particular day.
Right.
Because they're all the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying that's what I heard. But anyways, yeah, it's unreal
It's unreal.
nowadays, especially.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's
I've
a
been
reason
getting-
for it. Go
I've
ahead.
been getting that comment and like DM and message so much, like especially the past like maybe 2 months is like, I don't look like a scientist or I'm told I don't look like a scientist. I'm like, what is the science? Like I've combated that or I've been trying to by like posting really goofy photos of myself on the internet. And I'm like, I found a black hole during an REU program and this was what I look like. I don't think there's a standard.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I had like a nose ring. I have red hair. Like there's really like, there's no criteria. Like you just had to have curiosity.
Well, people looked at some of the famous astronomers getting out of bed in the morning. I don't think they look too good either.
Right.
So, I mean, we all have our negative and positive things, about us. So,
But we're back to it. Curiosity. That's the
Yeah.
requirement. That's what a scientist looks like. If you can't go in and you're not filled with wonder asking what if. Yeah, science is not it for you.
yeah. it
Yeah.
doesn't make it- So you mentioned the Instagram. So we, just a shameless plug again, Cosmic Pi, we have an Instagram account for the podcast.
Yeah.
It's Cosmic Pi PI _UND, by the way, if you're interested. But I noticed that, if I'm not mistaken, don't you have like well over 100,000 postings since you
Oh.
started Instagram?
I don't have 100,000 posts. I've been working on my
Or is it
Instagram.
10,000? There's some large number I noticed.
I think I have 12,000 on TikTok. That's where I like started like the
Okay.
whole outreach endeavor, only because the algorithm's really kind of easy to work with. Instagram is a little harder to break into.
Okay, yeah, TikTok.
Yes.
So TikTok always, well, they banned it here in North Dakota.
Yes.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so be careful of that. You won't be able to log in your TikTok accounts from
For
campus.
the campus
If you have-
for the
Oh,
campus
okay, okay.
network.
Yeah, so the campus
Yeah,
network. Yeah.
That I did notice.
Okay, yeah, that's what's going on there. But the only thing I'm familiar with, of course, for the Cosmic Pi is Instagram. And that, I mean, the more followers, the better. But you can't just like randomly select your closest 10,000 friends because you will be banned from the platform for a while, right?
Right.
They'll suspend you because you're
You're spam.
They're harassing people,
spamming.
is what they're saying essentially. So I had to
Yeah.
learn how to collect, if you like, or request followers, just a few at a time. But over time, and we've only had the podcast, or sorry, the Instagram on the podcast on the
About a
Instagram
year.
for maybe a
Yeah.
year, roughly a year, I guess. And we have nearly 2,000 followers now. But they were brought in like three at a time, right? It's very. So I think that's what you're alluding to. Some of that probably, right?
Yeah, it's Instagram for whatever reason is a very slow growth process, but I found with TikTok, a lot of stuff goes like viral a lot quicker, so you can get like a platform pretty quickly if you make decent content. So I was kind of trying to leverage that and just
Okay.
make my platform there and then slowly integrate it onto Instagram.
So Robert, I just figured out what's wrong. She said you had to make decent content.
Oh, well, there's our problem.
Whoa.
Just kidding. So do you do anything, let's say, on YouTube?
I don't. Actually, the biggest thing I started was a Discord server, which kind of sounds cringe if you know what Discord is, but I promise it's not.
It's not. It's really
Um,
not, folks.
'Cause- Well, I started on TikTok, and the reason of sharing things on TikTok was I wanted to share like not only like my journey of applying to grad school, but just like kind of my day-to-day life as an astronomer. So people who are interested or potentially interested in the field can kind of see like what my day-to-day life is, what like the processes are for applying to something like grad school or funding or whatever. So I wanted to be very like real and open and honest on the internet about, what the realities are for a job description like an astronomer, because again, I feel like a lot of it seems very like, ooh, like telescopes, stars, like that's all exciting, but there's also a reality to it. So I wanted to showcase like all the good, all the bad, all the in between.
There,
And
there's the
initially,
go,
yeah.
there's the nights in the dark sitting here.
Initially I just started posting like my personal journey, like how I got, through discouragement in high school, made it through undergrad, like that whole process. And then I slowly started gaining a bit of a platform from that, but I realized I kept getting reached out to by, other people on the internet, a lot of people that were younger than me that had the same question of, how can I get into astronomy? How can I, be like you? How can I study this? Where should I go for astronomy? And as much as I love talking to people and, sharing my insight and experiences and advice, I realized that I was getting this so constantly. I was like, what if I put all these people in a room and I can share all of my advice at once? So I created a Discord server where it's open to anyone can join. So I called it the astronomers and astrophysicists around the world. And the biggest demographic on the server, I believe, is the like high school students, that and the undergrads.
Bravo.
So I think currently it has like 3,000 plus people on it as of starting it like last September now. But I figured it was like a great place where I can share resources. So stuff like, REU flyers that I see, I can send it to everyone like, oh, check this out. Or, stuff from NASA, like, ooh, like they're doing internships here, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it on its own kind of turned into this really cool, beautiful community of like a lot of like grad students actually kind of took on the role of like mentors, and they like without my intervention decided to start like tutoring and like stuff like that with the
Awesome.
server. So it turned into this like whole like beautiful community of like aspiring and actual astronomers just in one place. And I don't know, I thought that was really, really cool. And the whole idea was to kind of like bridge the gap between, the scary astrophysics field with, the general public. And I feel like that's slowly but surely been doing a good job of that, because we're introducing, high schoolers and even as young as like, I don't know, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade that are like, I have an interest in astronomy. What can I do from now to get, to college or grad school? And then there's like grad students and like undergrads like, oh, like, take these classes, like check out these websites and YouTube videos. And like, I, along with a couple other grad students, will host like Q&A, like ask an astronomer sessions where we'll just hop on for like an hour and hang out where all the high schoolers and undergrads can ask us questions about whatever they want. And it's, I don't know, it's a good time.
Well,
So-
So I guess it's a way of going from TikTok where in some sense it's one-sided information, right?
Right.
Mhm.
That you're telling people things, but they can't easily get information back to you to respond or ask you questions about whatever. And so you utilize the score channel, for example, so you have that two-way street going back and forth.
Yep.
And that opens up a whole new ball game,
And
really,
as-
right? And
and
what you
as
can do with it.
long as you can keep it
Yeah.
cordial, Discord can descend into Reddit territory.
No,
But overall,
Have
if
moderators.
you've got moderators that can
Okay,
keep a
so you're all
handle on
set,
things,
yeah.
Discord is good. It's a
yeah.
good platform for communication like this.
Yeah.
But it can descend into the toilet, to use
So what
No,
about
vernacular.
So what about like current events? And here I'm thinking about, let's say, like research money, budget cuts. How could I use the Discord channel if I was, let's say, a politician, right? There's nothing wrong with politicians. We need politics
them.
to run our society.
Right.
But let's say I was a politician and I wanted to get if you like, a gauge of what people feel about certain issues. It would make sense that I could go to someone like yourself and say, bring up the idea that we might be considering to do A, B, and C and get some reaction from
Yeah.
the young people. I don't want reactions from a 50 or a 70-year-old person. I want a young person who's going to be voting soon or has just started. What do they think of this idea, the new generation? So that would seem to be a very powerful tool, and I'm sure they do that, right? I mean, it's probably done all over the place.
I don't
Absolutely.
know. They
Yeah.
should, but I
I-
don't know that they do.
I
Yeah.
actually personally have worked with like the AAS office, and I don't know if you've heard of them, but like that Stand Up for Science like organization. I think it's privately run. I don't know who runs it, but I've worked with both of them to both like facilitate like putting out information of what other people can do. So, obviously like calling and emailing senators and
Right.
representatives and
Right.
like sharing information. So I've worked very closely like with my own personal social medias to like create and put out content like that, but also sharing stuff where I've been asked on the server like how can I get involved? Like I'm an undergrad student in the U.S. Like I want to make a difference, and I think we hosted like a workshop on how to draft like an email for your senator or representative and stuff like that. So I actually have used the server to promote stuff like that because obviously as a scientist, it not only impacts me, but all of my peers, all of, my professors, colleagues, and everyone. So we're kind of all in this together. So any way that I can use or leverage my platform, like I've been really trying to.
Yeah, and this is all underground in some sense, right? It's not going to be, you're not going to see it on different news media, different
Yeah.
news stations, right?
Yeah.
This stuff is all, the undercurrent, right? Like the kitchen room conversation
Yeah.
that people may have had in the old days, if you like, on a Sunday afternoon after church. This stuff is happening, much more frequently, but this is the place to go where that's occurring.
Yeah.
And one of the groups, one of the groups you mentioned, I forget which one it was now, but I was at a presentation they did at AGS, American Geological Society, and they brought up the point that actually the best thing you can do is call and get an appointment to speak to your congressman or person, and emails fine, but they get kind of glanced at and tossed. Calls, you talk to one of their pages. When you schedule an appointment, you get to sit down with them face to face. Number one, as we've discussed, you're going to remember the face,
Yeah.
and you're going to remember better what you talked about. And somebody pushed to get through to see you. So I'll always say try to get an appointment if you're interested. In
Yeah,
this
and
stuff.
even like a young person, like to me, age really matters. Because if I see a cranky old 80-year-old man show up at my office, if I'm a politician, I may put a certain amount of weight to his opinion, of course.
Right.
But if I see a young, spry person show up who's like 18, 19, 20 or something, I'm like, wait a minute, they're going to have to put up with the ramification of any decisions that we make now for many, many decades.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in some sense, they have a lot more invested into what we're actually doing now because they have to live with that decision for a long, long time.
At the same time, a lot of it gets, I know this from talking with people, a lot of it gets tossed over the shoulder because they're young, they don't know what they're talking about. So,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
dismiss more easily.
right.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said. Whereas that cranky 80-year-old man has all those years of experience, they know what they're talking about. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Even though things in those days may or may not work the same as they do
Right.
now, and that's the difference,
Bingo.
right? Because things do change, as we all know. Life changes.
Right.
Now, before we finish up here, because we are running out of time, about 5 minutes left, I just want so you're off. You have this gap year then, and you're thinking about applying and have been applying to graduate school. So did you ever think about, oh, maybe this social media thing, I can make a living out of this, but I'm being pulled in a different direction because I really want to do the astronomy and astrophysics part?
I definitely always had like in the back of my mind, like, ooh, maybe I could be famous. That could be cool. But also like being perceived by the public's a little scary.
Yes,
So,
yes, it is.
I want to be very careful with what I put out there. And I feel like I have like a solid platform. I'm very grateful for the platform I have, but like, I don't know, having like a couple million followers would be a very intimidating, and I feel like I wouldn't be as confident sharing as much as I do.
Yeah,
So,
you'd have to
I
have
like
Robert and I walk beside you everywhere you go for a bodyguard.
yeah.
Mainly Robert, 'cause he's bigger than me.
486 on the rooftop.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, when you so a lot of people go that route, like that is, go the social media route and try to make a business out of it. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. If they're successful, why not?
Absolutely.
But I get from you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you still have this deep desire, this passion to do astronomy, irregardless of social media.
Yes, definitely. I think I was on and off about the idea of grad school all throughout undergrad. I went like very extreme of like, this is the only option for me to like, maybe I should consider other things. Like, I'm not too sure. And honestly, like I did two REU programs. I did research at Siena, and I loved it. Like, I love all aspects of research. Like, it's so fun to me just being like the spearhead of like a new idea in science that hasn't been previously, understood. But I think what really solidified it was the outreach portion, which is not, I don't know. I think outreach is very important in science, but I think maybe that's what sets my path a little different from other people, is because I want to be qualified enough to talk about science online and in, professional science spaces where I know with like 100% confidence and certainty that I am talking about the topic,
In good terms.
or like
Yeah.
in good terms. Like I'm clearly getting the message across, and I'm not, misunderstanding anything. So something that I really am hesitant about posting on my social medias currently is just scientific topics and explaining concepts, because I feel like granted, I do have an undergrad degree in astrophysics, but I feel like I don't have enough experience both in research and in coursework to really talk about those. And I really want to get to a level of like competency, like that I feel confident doing that. So up until this point, I've only talked about stuff like how to navigate the field, because that's a bit more subjective and that's stuff I've experienced directly. So I feel like very qualified enough to talk about it. But a large reason of what like solidified my idea or my reasoning to get a PhD was because I want to be able to do science communication and have kind of the credibility to do it. And I think a PhD will really help me with that.
Yeah, for sure. And you just never know what interests, you end up exploring, right? Because
That too.
you
Yeah.
run into something you never really thought about before, and someone say, well, look what happened here, look what you see here, and you're like, wow, this is really, and then you run away and there's a 20, 30-year career in that field. And that's happened, that's happened to astronomers in the
And you
past too.
look up and it's like, whoa, how did I get here?
Yeah, it's like, where did the time fly?
It's like a talking head song.
And where did the time fly is like our podcast, because we are done for
We're done for
so we have
today.
to kind of wrap this
So
up now.
thank you.
But thank you very much, and we'll definitely have you on again. We'll talk
Yeah.
about other stuff, and especially as you go through your hopefully very successful career at the University of North Dakota.
Yep.
Thank you.
Then we'll have
I'm so
lots of
happy to be here.
No, thank you, and we'll have lots of opportunity to talk to you. But speaking about University of North Dakota, if you're out there thinking about how can I learn some advanced astronomy from Mr. Robert Moore, who's sitting off to my right, or how can I learn about things in general, go to the university. Go to any university, but in particular, if you can, come to the University of North Dakota. We do have programs online and also on campus, and Robert, we're always around to be able to meet and greet with you, and we love lifelong learners.
And Kristina's here now too, so come see us.
Exactly. Now our next podcast will be next Tuesday. That's on September the 2nd. Robert's been running in at the last moment.
Yep.
So unless there's like a real emergency, like he trips and falls before he gets here, it will go ahead at the same great time as 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And I hate to say it, but that daylight time is soon going to be gone before you know it. But I shouldn't have said that.
Sorry, but yay.
Yeah. Now, at the end of our podcast, we always leave you with a quote. Today's quote, and the two who are listening to me here intensely, they know who it's from because I spoiled it. It's from Carl Sagan. But you don't know what the quote is.
Don't know what the quote is.
And it's actually from his book, The Demon Haunted World.
Oh,
It's from 1996.
Not a well-known book.
And if you think about what's going on in science news lately, specifically astronomy, specifically some comments people leave on our videos and stuff, you'll see that it's really relevant today. So here's the quote. The unprecedented powers that science now makes available must be accompanied by unprecedented levels of ethical focus and concern by the scientific community, as well as the most broadly based public education into the importance of science and democracy. So if you like this podcast, please feel to destroy that like button. Can we say that, Kristina? Is that the proper?
Smash that like button.
There you go. I'm trying to be a young person here. You got to teach me the lingo.
I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to say it's
subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We'll give a thumbs up there. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time, folks.
Bye.